Hey, what's going on, guys? Coming at you with a test hands video, and today I'll be showing off a few test hands with my flower Cardians. So this kind of video was actually requested by a few of the guys at the card shop. Just basically wanted to see how some of my different weird rogue decks work, and I figured a test hands video would be the best way to show it off. So that way I could not only explain what some of the cards do and how some of the plays work, but also be able to show, through a visual, how these different interactions play out. With Flower Cardians, it's a deck that I've really fallen in love with. It's really unique how the deck just draws a bunch of cards, how the deck's like based off of the Hanafuda card game, how the actual cards have like different card art on them, like how Flower Cardian Willow, for example, has a giant Trunade on it. And it's a deck that not a lot of people really know what exactly they do or really how to pilot the deck properly. Granted, I'm not the best Flower Cardian player in the world, but I have tested this deck pretty extensively and know a lot of different plays that build you up to your most optimal synchro plays, because it's kind of a snowball effect kind of deck. You have to know, what cards to play when, how to kind of build your snowball effect up properly to where you maximize your chances of being able to just have the best luck with your Cardian draws and build up your synchro plays to the best that they can be. So we'll go ahead and show that off today with a couple of test hands. I went ahead and like pre-power shuffled and shuffled this once just to make sure I wouldn't have like really bad test hands, because I always have my decks in like really like just organized order, and I wanted to make sure it got a little bit jumbled before I started this. I'll be doing a couple test hands with test hands of 5, just to show how the deck can operate going first and with a hand of 5 cards instead of 6. Just kind of show you how some of the plays with the deck can work. Okay, so I think that's enough of a cut, and then we'll go ahead and draw our starting 5, which I'll go ahead and show off here. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this right here is actually a really good starting hand. Any hand where you have Flower Gathering and a tuner is always going to be a good hand. That kind of hand will end up with at least a Flower Cardian Light Shower, if not the boss synchro monster, the Flower Cardian Light Flare. Some other things we have in the hand is we have a Zebra Grass, which we can summon for free, a Palomino, which we can summon for free, and also an Allure of Darkness, which can draw us more cards. Now, when it comes to really just about any deck that I play, my rule of thumb is always to play the card that like thins out your deck first before you play the actual draw card, because that thins out your deck and increases your chances of drawing good cards off of your draw card. So that's what we are going to go ahead and do first. We're going to activate Flower Gathering. This card lets you summon out all 4 of the 100 attack point Flower Cardian monsters from your deck in attack position. Then they're affection negated and they cannot be attributed for a tribute summon. You can only activate Flower Gathering once per turn, and the turn you activate it, you can only activate or you can only summon Flower Cardian monsters. Where is the other one? There we are. Okay, so there's all 4 of our Flower Cardians. Go ahead and shuffle the deck here really quick. 4 and 5, and do a little cut there. Okay, so we have our 4 Flower Cardians on board. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Since we have a good bit of Flower Cardians in hands, even some extra Flower Cardians, I'll go ahead and activate Allure of Darkness now to allow us to draw 2 new cards and then banish 1. So we have 2 of the tuners here, which means if we snowball this pretty well, we can end up with 2 big synchro plays at least. So we'll go ahead and keep the tuners in hand, and I will go ahead and banish the worst or the weakest of the Flower Cardians in hand, which is probably the Palomino. Doesn't really do anything other than negate an attack if it's targeted for attack, so that's not really too good. Okay, so we have our 4 Flower Cardians on board, and now yeah, let's do it this way. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tribute one of our Flower Cardians to special summon the Peony with Butterfly. With Peony with Butterfly, you have to tribute another Flower Cardian to special summon it. And then with its effects, when it's summoned, you do what's called a Flower Cardian draw. And what a Flower Cardian draw is you draw a card and reveal it. And then if it's a Flower Cardian, you get to do something. With this, you draw the card and show it. If it's a Flower Cardian, which it is, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and place them all on top or bottom in any order. So obviously we were successful in that, so we get to keep the card, and then you get to do that. With a Flower Cardian draw, if you don't draw a Flower Cardian, then that card goes to the graveyard. So it does have a little bit of a downside, but that's also why you play a ton of Flower Cardian monsters in the deck, to increase your chances of getting good Flower Cardian draws, of course. Okay, so next we will go ahead and special summon Flower Cardian Willow, since we control a level 10 or lower Flower Cardian monster. With its effect, once per turn per the card, we can shuffle back a Flower Cardian monster from our graveyard back to our hand, shuffle the deck, and then draw 1 card. The nice thing about Willow is that whatever card you draw off of it, you get to keep regardless, which is actually really nice. So we'll go ahead and do that. We shuffle back our Pine. Shuffle, cut, and draw 1. Reinforcement of the Army. That's actually a really good draw. Okay, so we have a tuner and then 4 other Flower Cardian tuners, which means we can build up to our really big Synchro Boss monster. With the tuners, they have an effect to where when they're used for a Synchro Summon, it can make itself and all other Synchro materials level 2. So we'll go ahead and Synchro for 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, level 10, into Flower Cardian Light Flare. It's a level 10, a whopping 5,000 attack, and with its effect, once per turn, during either player's turn, it can negate a spell or trap card effect and destroy it. During the battle phase, if any one of your Cardians battle, it just shuts off monster effects for that battle phase only. And then if it leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you get to summon out one of your Flower Cardian Synchros from the extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. So overall, really powerful card. And this is the card you always want to build up to with your Synchro plays if possible. So now that we have Light Flare on the board, we'll go ahead and activate Reinforcements of the Army, which lets us add a level 4 or lower Flower Cardian monster from deck to hand. And we'll go ahead and add... yeah, we'll go ahead and add a Pine. Adding Flower Cardian Pine. Pine's important because he is the lowest level of the deck and the only normal summon of the deck. The reason the low level is important is because all of your other 100 attack point Flower Cardian monsters require that you have a level Cardian on board lower than itself to summon it for free, and Pine fills the requirement for all of those, obviously, being such a low level. So we'll go ahead and normal summon Pine, and when it's normal summon, we get to do a Cardian draw, and basically, if it is a Cardian, we keep it, otherwise we send it to grave. So it is a Cardian, which means we get to keep the card. Okay. So next, since we control level 7 or lower Cardian, we can special summon Zebragrass. And we can actually go ahead and use its effects, which I think I'll go ahead and do. It's like a magical mallet for Cardians. When it's normal or special summon, you get to shuffle back any number of Flower Cardian monsters in your hand. In this case, we'll choose 2. Shuffle those back into the deck and then draw the same number of cards. So this is a good way to kind of unbrick some of your hands that are filled with too many Cardians, and then get some free draws. Same thing as Willow. No matter what you draw off of this, you get to keep the cards regardless, which is really nice. I think only Willow and Zebragrass have the effect to be able to keep your draw regardless of what you draw within Cardians. So we got that shuffle going, we cut, and then we draw our 2 cards. So we drew another Zebragrass and a Lure of Darkness, which means we can draw even more cards. So I'll go ahead and activate a Lure of Darkness, draw 2, and then banish a Dark Monster. So we drew the Willow with Gulliver. It's another tuner of the deck, but we already have a tuner in hand, and this one's honestly the better tuner. So I'll go ahead and banish this because we really won't need it. And then we also drew Flower Stacking, which is a really strong card. So I'll kind of talk about Flower Stacking really quick. What it does is when you activate it, you get to choose 3 Flower Cardians with different names from your deck and place them on top of the deck in any order. And what that does is that basically sets up your allows you to be able to stack whatever cards you want to draw off of your Cardian draws, which means you can kind of set up your own plays the way you want, which is something that's very important for this deck. So if you have a Cardian in hand that you're going to summon that has a Cardian draw effect, you always want to activate stacking first so that you can set up your snowball effect with the deck. So we'll go ahead and activate flower stacking, and we'll go ahead and stack a few cards on the top of the deck because that's not cheating at all. So there's almost always the same 3 cards that I stack on top of this effect, but I already have one of them in hand, which is the tuner, so I'm not sure which 3 I'm actually going to do. It's a shame I can't stack like 2 of these because that would make it really, really good. So 1, 2, and actually we can do it this way. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do it like this. 1, 2, and 3. So before you stack, of course, you shuffle the rest of the deck to make sure that you're only cheating by stacking the top 3 cards, not your whole deck. And we cut. Actually, with how long this is taking, I may only do 1 test hand, honestly. That's the one downside with Cardians, is even if you know what you're doing, even if you play fast, the turns can take a while, kind of like Zodiacs, but, this deck is a little bit more skill-intensive and, a little more luck-based. So I'm going to do what I always do with the stacking plays. I put Curtain on top, and you'll see why here in a second. Then I'm doing Maple with Deer after that, and then the 3rd card will be Willow. So kind of see why I do it that way here in a second. Okay. So next we will go ahead and tribute one of our Flower Cardians to special summon the Tuner. Of course, with the Tuner effect, like we did before, we do a Cardian draw. And then if it's a Cardian, we can look at the top 3 cards of the opponent's deck again, even though we already did that before, and then rearrange their cards. So of course, since we stacked our deck, we obviously have a Cardian, so that works out. Then we can use the Peony with Butterfly summoning effect. So basically, you reveal this in your hand. You do a Cardian draw, like you do for most other Cardian cards. And then if it is a Cardian, which of course it will be, because we just used flower stacking, you get to summon this and then keep the card. If this card weren't a Cardian card, both this and the non-Cardian card would go to the graveyard. So it is a bit of a risky card, but not so much when you have flower stacking. So that gets us another Cardian monster on board, which you probably noticed the theme by now. It's just spam a bunch of Flower Cardians on board with 1 tuner, and then just synchro summon, just the beefiest, bossiest synchro Cardian monsters that you possibly can. So we just summon him, and then we can go ahead and tribute our Pine to special summon Maple with Deer. Maple with Deer, you have to tribute a different Flower Cardian to summon him, similar to the tuner. That's the same for all of the 1,000 attack point Flower Cardians. And then same kind of effect, you do a Cardian draw. If you draw a Cardian off of it, which obviously we did, you could destroy a spell or trap card your opponent controls, which is actually useful for going second, but going first, that really won't do much. So we do draw and keep the Willow. Next, we'll go ahead and special summon the Willow, since we control a level 10 or lower. And then use its effect again to shuffle something back from grave back into deck and then draw a card. Yeah, we'll go ahead and shuffle back a Willow. Willow is probably my favorite and maybe the best main deck Flower Cardian monster, honestly. It's just really good how it recycles your engine and then draws you cards. It's definitely at least the best non-tuner, because the deck's problem sometimes is just not drawing a tuner. So I'll do a quick shuffle there. I can already tell this video is going over 10 minutes.
No, it's 14 minutes. Okay.
Wow, okay. Well, we might as well keep going. Might as well play this out. So we do a number of flower stacking, which is cool. This actually isn't once per turn, the on-field effect, so we could use this again if we wanted. But that's not really going to do us much, honestly. So again, we have the tuner on board, and we can use everything else as level 2. So we have... well, really quick, before I do that... this actually would have been really cool if it were a Soul Charge, because what you can do with the deck with Soul Charge at this point is you can go ahead and synchro your whole board, including the Light Flare, which would count as level 2 as well, since it is a Cardian. you would synchro your whole board into the second light flare, and then you could soul charge back the first light flare, your synchro summon, plus 3 other cards. So you would have double light flare on board, plus your other one of your other synchros board fly, and you would just have like a really strong board at that point. But even without soul charge, we still can make a pretty strong board here, and we can go ahead and synchro for a level 8.
By the way, your phone's at 20%.
Oh, thank you. Coming in with the current news. So synchro into Light Shower. Light Shower is basically like a Dark Destroyer for the whole deck. Your opponent cannot target Flower Cardians with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by card effects. So she protects herself and protects Light Flare. I'll go ahead and flip these around here. Or actually, yeah. It's good like that. And then every time your opponent draws with the draw phase, they get burned for 1,500 damage. So it does kind of slowly chip into your opponent's life points. The only drawback is that during your opponent's end phase, you have to choose whether to skip your next draw phase or have its effects negated until the next standby phase. So it does have a little bit of a downside, but the whole skipping the draw thing doesn't really matter in Cardians when, as you see, you just draw a billion cards anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much where a turn would end there. You could summon the... well, actually, no, you couldn't even summon the Zebra Grass because you don't control a 7 or lower. You have an 8 and a 10. But yeah, I mean, that's actually a pretty optimal opening for Flower Cardians, honestly. And it's actually an opening that actually happens a lot for this deck. I'd say at least 50% of the time, if not more, with the way that I put this deck together. So yeah, just with Cardians, you're trying to spam the board with monsters as much as you can. Just make sure that you order things in a certain way to get the most out of your Cardian draws. And then by the end of it, you're just looking to build up your board to as many of your boss synchros as possible. And even though I mentioned the Soul Charge play, and you may think, well, it's only at 1, and that play doesn't come up too much, just look at how much you drew in this one turn. You actually do end up seeing that 1 of Soul Charge even more than you'd think. And it's just really powerful if and when you get it off. So before this video goes any longer, for another eternity, go ahead and end it here. So let me know what you guys think about this kind of how-to video or test hands video in the comment section below. I'll try to do it with a deck that doesn't take like an eternity to actually do the plays for next time. But yeah, remember guys to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to Kenzie for recording behind the camera, and we will catch you guys next time.